Hello, everyone, and welcome to Make It Mindful, the podcast where we explore how to keep schools relevant by looking through the lens of mindfulness and asking the question, what's really worth paying attention to here? I'm your host, Seth Fleischauer. In each episode, I interview educational changemakers, striving to understand what they do, why it works, and how it can lead to practical, transformative solutions for teaching. This week, my guest is Vriti Saraf. Vriti, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Seth.
I want to talk about a lot of the things that you do because you do a lot of things. But first, I'm going to read this little paragraph about what you do, and I just want you to tell me is this right or not? Okay, just did I do a good job? So today's guest is an innovator in the education space, the founder of Ed3DAO and K20 Educators. Vriti's companies do three main things. First, they build online asynchronous courses in partnerships with universities like Iowa State and Fordham, focusing on emerging technologies and teaching this content via project-based learning, UDL, and restorative practices. Second, they foster a vibrant community of practice where educators collaborate and learn from each other, with NFT holders accessing not only the wisdom of their peers, but also grant opportunities and international conferences. And third, they are thought leaders pushing education forward through micro-credentials, digital portfolios, and other transformative initiatives aimed at reshaping pedagogy. How'd I do?
I think you did better than I normally would do. So thank you for all those added details.
Awesome. So I'm really excited to dive into here to your work. I really want to understand what it is and why it works. And the first thing I'd love for you to do is to paint me a picture. So you talk about integrating emerging technology with universal design for learning, UDL, project-based learning, PBL, and restorative justice. What does that look like?
So the first just quick correction I want to make is we're not pedagogy. We look at many different pedagogies, and so the three that you mentioned are three of many. And so we're
Okay.
also adding things like design thinking, also things like the five E's in STEM or SEL. So we basically span all pedagogies. And so one of the things I'll start off with why we're doing this, and then I'll paint that picture. One of the biggest pet peeves that we have in emerging tech right now, especially with AI, is that oftentimes educators are subjected to adopting strategies in emerging tech in their classroom because of an ed tech tool that their district bought for them, or because it's a really sexy thing to do that sort of talks about teacher efficiency or something like that, but it's not actually improving their practice. It's not actually increasing the quality of instruction or the quality of teaching and learning, and it's not making life easier for them. And so one of the things that we often say is right now, especially with the use of AI, we're really perpetuating the status quo in education. We're not actually enhancing it. We're not transforming it. And so what the solution that we came up with in order to really move forward on that was, how can we engage educators with the pedagogies that we know are really effective and have been effective for ages, and reinforce them in a way that they're able to learn them better, while also teaching them about content, about emerging technology like AI, and enhancing that pedagogy through that sort of emerging tech. And the problem with that is, if a teacher doesn't know how to generate a good lesson plan in the first place, then anything you generate with AI is still going to be garbage.
Oh, come on. You're getting fancy here. No, 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 no. It's just about creating them. We just have to get them out faster.
Exactly. So it's just it's silly to say and silly to think about, but it is the reality of most education systems right now, where educators are struggling because they're just not getting the right PD. They're not getting the most effective and efficacious PD for their teaching and learning. So when we're working with when we're working with students on any type of behavioral practices, empathy is a really, really important thing. And for first-time teachers, it's really hard to get into the brain of a student, and really hard to really empathize with what they're going through. So one of the activities that we have in one of our courses is, what if we created a student persona using an AI tool, something like Character AI or Synthesia or any of those things, and basically had the teacher practice engaging with that student and basically developing that sort of empathy through that persona, right? So things like that we think are a much better use of AI for education, so that teachers can actually like reinforce and enhance their practices rather than, oh, let's use AI to generate a lesson plan for,
Yeah.
restorative practices.
It sounds like you're somewhat like pedagogically agnostic, right? Like you have different pedagogies that you identify as being valuable things to know, valuable approaches to take. Maybe not for every student, but maybe not for every teacher, but in certain circumstances where a culture has emerged that wants UDL, like if you're going to be doing it, here's how to incorporate emerging technologies into it. But I am struck that a lot of the pedagogies that you mentioned are more sort of like progressive, like in the mode of like changing and improving education.
The interesting thing is there are so many pedagogies out there that are really progressive and that are really student centric and that are really about sort of like hands-on learning, critical thinking, all that kind of stuff. But those are often not prioritized, especially in American schools, because it's just easier to do didactic instruction. And so that's one of the sort of like MOs of our organization, which is like, can we actually like proliferate more of these strategies, especially if AI is going to help make it easier to implement. And the truth is that the world is evolving so fast and the workforce is evolving so fast, we're never going to be fully prepared to actually meet the needs in terms of competencies, sort of skills or knowledge sets that students need. And so the way that we want to look at teacher development and student development is not necessarily these are the skill sets that you need, but more these are the mindsets that you need, and these are the sort of like holistic competencies. And the three competencies that I really want my kid to have, number one is I want them to be a critical thinker, so that they can apply any concept and any pedagogy and any content to any situation, no matter what they're learning, where they're learning, how they're learning. Number two is self-awareness, so that they understand who they are and how they want to operate in life, and they understand what fulfills them. And number three is social awareness or empathy, so they can understand how they operate in the world around them and what the world can actually benefit from their skill set. So if we can focus on those three competencies or those three mindsets for educators and for students, but do it in a way that really just fits into the evolving nature of the world, and also make sure that workforce is ready for these kids and they're ready for the workforce, then I think that's how we want to think about it, not necessarily like, what is the day-to-day skill set that they really need. And then in terms of like, what does the future of a classroom work look like? One of the concepts that I've been obsessed with lately, this came out way back in like, I think it was like 2013 or 14, but UNESCO created this concept called the cities of learning. If you haven't seen it
I was
yet, you
going to
should
ask
totally
more
check it
about
out.
this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's super cool. It's unfortunate like that it didn't gain a lot of traction, but they have this like PDF that we can link to the notes later if you'd like. It basically like enumerates what the qualities of a city of learning are, and it includes things like micro-credentialing, like experiences that span outside of the classroom, that schools aren't just a place to learn, they're actually a social place, and they're actually a convening place, and the learning is actually happening everywhere in the city. That educators are not just the educators that get masters and are inside the classroom, but they're everywhere around the city. There's just all these really great sort of like these characteristics that they've identified. And that's what I imagine the future of learning and the future of education to be, where like an entire city is activated for your kid to be learning all
Yeah.
the time. Now, with AI, that could be even more, dynamic, right? So imagine if you have like an AI wearable, you're going into a park and the wearable is actually teaching you about the trees. And maybe there's another kid in the park, who is in your classroom or in your sort of cohort, and you can meet up with them and you can have like a little community experience, and you didn't even know that they were there. Like there's so many different sort of like enhancement that AI can create. We're not there yet, but I think we're going to get there pretty quickly if we're able to think about, the entire city as a city of learning.
Can we just fast forward and live in your techno utopia? It sounds wonderful. I want to be there. Uh, well, we are approaching the attention span limit of most teachers. I do have one more question for you. Where can our listeners find your work on the internet?
So you can go to ed3dao, ed3dao.com to take a look at any of our courses, or join our community. You can also apply for grants to facilitate peer-to-peer learning. And you can also keep updated on any of the R&D projects that we're doing there. You can go to LinkedIn, find me on LinkedIn, Vriti Saraf, to keep up with any of the content that I'm working on. And then I have a Substack, which is called Ed3 World, ED3 World. I definitely am inconsistent on it, but hopefully the posts that I do make are helpful and interesting. Much like this conversation, by the way, Seth, this was a super fun conversation. Really enjoyed it. And then I also have a personal consulting website called VritiSaraf.com, which I don't do much on anymore, but it is there if anybody wants to check it out.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, this exceeded even my high expectations. I love talking to you. I could have talked to you for another 3 hours, and I probably will, maybe after your maternity leave. But thank you so much for coming on, for sharing your ability to kind of see through the fog. There's a lot of noise out there, and I really appreciate your ability to kind of distill down what's important and then apply that to where we may be going. So thank you for your work, and thanks for being here.
Thank you for the kind words. And it's always lovely to speak with you.
Thank you, as always, to my advisor, Deirdre Marlowe, to my editor, Lucas Salazar. If you'd like to support the podcast, please tell a friend, leave us a rating, a review, subscribe. And remember that if you want to bring positive change to education, you must first make it mindful. See you next time.